All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys. Good morning. Thank you guys for being here. See some familiar faces. I know people, I've got a few texts from others that will be coming on here in 5 or so minutes, but we'll go ahead and get started because I know we just have 30 minutes. And this is definitely a hot button when you're looking to grow a team or you have a current team. I know Tyler, who I was just chatting with, I coach with him one-on-one, and we've had many conversations about team splits. So before we dive into it, like I say every week, my goal is for you guys to be able to take a nugget or two from each one of these sessions. I understand that the way our markets work around the country are all different. So sometimes splits and the way your teams are structured have to be different depending on your market, where you're located, price point, all of that. So as we go through this, keep that in mind. The great thing about me being a Compass agent, I kind of get to share what has been successful for me, what has not been successful for me. And especially with this session this week, I want to leave a good amount of time at the end for questions, because I know you guys will definitely have questions regarding the splits. So let's jump into it. From last session, just want to reiterate real quick. I always like to just go through real quick what we touched on. We talked a lot about recruiting top talent. How do you retain it? How do you recruit talent as an agent? How do you keep it, and how you keep it and retain is what we're going to get into next week. I like to mix the splits kind of right in between them. Last year I did splits first, but I think this is going to work out a little bit better because they all tie together. With recruiting top talent, it's all about your core four, your value prop, which I talk about almost every session. The 4 reasons agents want to join a team, whether it's brand, it's culture, it's opportunities, or support. That's it. So we went through that, talking about as a team leader, what are your 2 or 3 areas that you want to provide the most value on when recruiting agents? Also, we discussed learning how to leverage Compass when it comes to recruiting, relationships with your SGMs, your sales managers, and the other agents within the office. And then lastly, where the hell do I find agents, right? Whether that's through social media posts, previous transactions, current agents on your team. We went through all of that. And again, all of this is in your vault through the CSC platform. So you can always go back to the video. If you don't want to see my ugly face, you can listen to me. And the slides are obviously always there. So let's get into it. All right. So I changed up this session a little bit from what we did in the fall. Splits, guys. I know Tyler will agree. I mean, that's what it's about when building a team. Even though it shouldn't be, that's the first thing agents want to know about. That's the thing that drives them to a team. That's what pushes them away from a team. One small little tweak can put them in the right direction, can take them in the wrong direction. So I kind of want to reverse engineer into this before we get into the numbers, because at the end, what I'm going to do is share my team agreement. Oh, there's Lee on there. All right. A lot of OGs are here. Great. We're going to go through a kind of a generic split agreement that I use. That will be available to you after this as well. So don't worry about taking a picture of it or anything. You're going to receive that. But let's talk about some tips to navigate healthy splits, because it is so important for a team. Also, I have the chat up on my other screen. I'm going to try to pay attention to it. I'm totally fine if you guys chime in and cut me off and ask a question if it's on the tip of your tongue. So feel free to do that, or just throw it in the chat. I'll try to get to it. So tips to navigate healthy splits. As important as splits are, one of the biggest mistakes I see that team leaders do is they are so focused on only the split, rather than the value of their team. Here's the thing, guys. Without value, the splits don't matter. I have seen multiple teams deteriorate because, on paper, and at first they look great. Everyone's joining their team because, their split is great, but they have no value. So here's the thing. It's easy to bring agents on the team, but it's hard to bring the right agents on the team. So without focusing on your value first and what you're going to provide to your team, the splits don't matter. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. Number 2, don't get too comfortable as a team leader. I see this all the time. We just came out of a COVID market where we all made a lot of money. Team leaders made a lot of money. It's really easy to get comfortable with your agents. And as they progress or degress, unfortunately, I know talking to a lot of team leaders, a lot of their agents made a lot of money, but then it might also be time to reevaluate what their split looks like and what their relationship and duties with the team are. So just don't get too comfortable with the way you're set up. And that kind of ties into the 4th one. But 3rd, do not make the team all about you. I'm big on this. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying it's the wrong way to do it, but this is just what has worked for me. Teams are the future of our business. I think we can all agree on that. The individual agent, I think in 10 or 15 years is out of this business. It's going to be all teams. Guys, we've got this in our hand. This is faster than any computer that was ever made in the 80s, this thing. So our business is on super rapid speed all the time. So being an individual agent, it's just tough. Easier in the COVID market, but now it's becoming real tough as this market has changed. So making the team the old, I call it the KW model. Sorry for you ex-KW agents, but like the old way of building your team where it's all about the team leader, it doesn't work anymore, guys. Agents on your team want to be a part of a culture that's fun. They want to have their own identity. They kind of want to obviously want to be your brand is your focus as a team, but they want to be, kind of their own hybrid brand. Tyler, I'm going to pick on you in a good way. His team name is Access KC. I love it. It's not the Grieve Group. It's not the Tyler Group. It's Access KC. If I was to start a team today and my team hadn't been together for 8 years, I would definitely look to name my team something similar like that. Right? I would take my name out of it. I can't really do that now with my team, but that's a good example of it not just being about Tyler. He wants to build this culture and build this brand that people want to be a part of. So don't just make the team about you. And last, learning to adjust. I think this is probably the most important thing, not only with team splits, but being successful in real estate, no matter whether you're on a team or not. As markets change, as agents change, as they become more successful, you must understand that you have to learn to adjust with them. So what does that look like? For me, meeting with each individual agent quarterly, not only not to discuss their sales, but to also understand them a little bit more. See what's going on at home, see them where I can help in and out of the office, getting their feedback on their thoughts. All of these things are adding to the culture, it's adding to the brand, but ultimately learning to adjust. It's really easy. It was really easy to get greedy in the COVID market as a team leader. But some of you guys know this, I had an agent that was selling $30 million a year. I adjusted his split significantly because I was making way too much money off of him because I knew he would leave my team. Some people were like, oh, you're stupid. What are you doing? But I sat down with him. We looked at his goals, where he wanted to progress, and we made those adjustments. This market is always changing. Our business is always changing. That's why I love it. Every deal is different. So you must learn how to adjust within your business. All right. All right. So team splits. Let's look at a few areas, and these are a few tips, recommendations that I think when you're looking to build out your team, build out your splits. First, you must define your team model. I think that was week 2 or 3 of these sessions. What team model do you currently have? Are you looking to achieve? Now, again, adjust. My team model, I was a rainmaker in the beginning. It was all about me because I was the only one producing. Now I have shifted more into a brokerage style model similar to what Tyler does. So it's not just about me anymore. It's about our team. It's about the community I am building. So figuring out your team model, not only what that looks like now and what your goals are for 10 years down the road. Where do you see your team model? Is it still in a rainmaker model? Do you want to go to a partnership, or do you want to expand to other states? All of this has an effect on how you set up your team splits. Being self-aware, my favorite word. I say it every week, right? Outlining your team, building your team. It's not only from a culture or a brand standpoint, it's from your splits, like understanding why you want to build this team. Is it strictly for money? Great. Right? Is it because you want more time on your hands? Is it because you want to go to your kids' golf tournaments on the weekend, like me? Right? So I understand that if I want to free up some of my time and not be involved so much in the day-to-day business, I'm not going to be able to take 50% on every deal for my team. Right? So being self-aware, keeping things simple. I would star this one. As type A personalities, like most of us are in this business, we like to overthink everything. Keeping your team structure, your splits simple is one of the most important things you can do. Now, the mistake I made, and a lot of mistakes I see that Compass agents have made, is in the beginning when you're building your team and you got 2 or 3 people, it's easy. You can have these structured tiers to where, hey, if Sally hits this mark, then she goes to this percentage, then she gets this bonus. And then when she hits this, she goes to here, then she goes to here. That's fine. Easy to keep track of, simple. But if your goal is to bring in 8 or 9 Sallys, that becomes a lot more complicated when you've got 5 different tiers of splits going on, keeping track of it. Then Sally number 1, who's been there for 7 years, gets upset because Sally number 8 somehow is making more money than her because of the split and this and that, and it just becomes a racket. Keep it very simple. I can't stress that enough. Understanding when to adjust. Again, that was on the first page. You've got to understand when to make those adjustments. If your agent's sales increase, if they decrease, and this can all be reflected in your team agreement as well, which you'll see, you're going to get a copy of here in the CSC platform. So understanding and setting up your team to where if agents succeed or if they don't succeed, having the ability to make those changes. I've shared with a lot of you, not only my team agreement, but my team expectations agreement that they sign every year. And a lot of this adjustment, I always struggled with the adjustment. It was a tough talk, right? Especially if you need to go the other way with an agent. But the team agreement and this team expectation pages kind of loosen that blow for me. So it really helps with the adjustment side. Is that Tracy I see there? There she is. I saw Tracy on the dance floor last week. All right. All right. So the golden question: how should I structure my splits? Right? There's not one simple way, guys. again, this isn't a black and white business, very gray. We have Compass referrals that come into teams. We have team leader referrals given out to agents. We have agent on our team sphere of influence deals, right? We have agent open houses. We have team leader held open houses. How does that work? Right? What the hell do I do? It can get very, very, very complicated. So you've got to understand that there are many factors when going in and structuring your team splits. For me, my ultimate goal, and this is an opinion, is I weigh heavily on rewarding my team members if they generate business from their own sphere of influence. That's what it's all about, guys. The first conversation I have when I interview someone is, if you came on this team to get handouts, you're not on the right team. Now, are they going to get a bunch of leads from me? Are they just going to generate organically? Absolutely. You can ask anyone on my team, but that's the wrong mindset. So I want to reward them heavily for generating their own business. Now, when I hand them a deal, obviously I'm going to take a big chunk of it, and we're going to get into the actual numbers here in a minute. But these are the things you want to look at. So one thing that I've struggled even with this year, and I really haven't figured it out, is the Compass referral. I'm fortunate enough to generate a lot of Compass to Compass referrals from other agents from around the country. Well, a lot of those referrals I will pass on to my team members. So, and this is a question I'm asking myself, talking out loud to you guys. Okay, does my team members split still say at 50-50 because I'm going to have to pay a 30% referral on top of that? Is there enough money in the deal? I don't know. Those are things I'm still working through. I'll share with you here in a minute how I actually do it now, but I would also love to hear your feedback on that as we get to the Q&A here at the end. Obviously, a team leader referral. If I get a call or something from a past client and I'm handing it to someone on my team, what does that look like? That is definitely a lot more heavily weighted than if one of my team members generates their own deal from, a postcard mailer they're doing. Same with sphere of influence. And then open houses. A lot of my listings, one of my value adds, back to the core four, probably my biggest value add would be I provide opportunities for agents that join my team a chance to get into the luxury market. A lot of my focus is on the higher end properties here. So often, just this weekend, I had 2 agents host one of my new listings, an open house at it. It's a multi-million-dollar property. That's something that they probably would not have the opportunity to hold open if they were by themselves. But if they generate a deal off that, what does that look like? So we're going to go through that. Questions before we get into numbers? I know I'm kind of zooming here because we'll probably have a bunch at the end. Nope, nothing in the chat. All right, we're tired this morning. All right. So let's look at a sample team agreement. Some of you on this call have seen this before, or structure. So here's the thing too, before we get into this, every market is different. I said that in the beginning, right? Markets like DFW, like Atlanta, like KC, we're on higher splits, but obviously the price points aren't the same. I know New York City, I just got off a call with 2 agents that I coach one-on-one. New York City, the splits are significantly lower. But here's an example of a team breakdown, the way I have my team structured. And some tips. Agents are obsessed with the split. We all know that, right? So I have transaction management fees that they actually pay for. A lot of agents, what they will do, which I have nothing against, is provide a lower split, but then pay for everything for the agent, which is fine. I get it. What I have found and what has worked for me and the psyche of an agent, agents don't mind paying a $475 transaction fee on every deal. But if you lower their split 1%, let's just say that equals the same, they flip out about it. So I separate those things. So the perk of being a team leader to joining the Pastana group is everything is based off a 90-10 split. There's a 2% resource fee. Of course, I know some parts of Compass don't have that. That's just how it works for me. So in the end, it's an 88 if you want to do the math. But I'm separating them, right? Because I'm not seeing any part of that 2%. So you get to work off a 90-10. So all these numbers down here correlate to a 90%, not 100%. So just kind of keep that in mind. So Pastana group. So let's look at the lead source. Pastana group. So if a referral comes from the Pastana group, from me, let's say I have a listing, someone calls on it and says, hey, I want to go buy a $2 million home. Are you available this weekend? And I go, hey, Ruthie Adams, this person wants to go look at this home and write an offer. Here you go. Boom. When she closes that deal, that's a 50-50 split. Simple, right? But that's off the 90%. So she's really only making 40 if you want to get complicated. All right. Again, you're going to get a copy of this. So let's go to the team members, right? So let's say Ruthie on my team does a farming campaign in her neighborhood, and her next door neighbor calls her and says, hey, Ruthie, I want you to list my home, right? And ask if it confuses you a little bit. Until they pay in $5,000 to the team, they are on an 85-15, right? So that they're paying in 15% to the team, but that's off the 90%. Okay. Once they pay in 5,000, that goes to 10%, right? So 10% on their deals. That's it. I am screaming at them to go generate their own business, because here's the truth. They could walk in the door to Compass right now as an individual agent, and they're probably not getting this split, even with them paying into the team. So in some cases, they're getting a raise, which people could say I'm stupid. I'm leaving money on the table. But here's the thing. No one leaves my team. The culture's great. The brand's great. Everyone's happy. And most importantly, it's pushing them to generate and grow their own business, right? So thumbs up if you follow those first two. Okay. Open houses. Again, this is where it can kind of get complicated. I try to keep it as simple as possible. If for example, last week, if Brittany would have had a buyer come in, whether they wanted to buy that home she was holding open for me, or they would go down the street and buy another home from her. On the first transaction, it's 50-50. Because would Ruthie have, or would Brittany have generated that client if it wasn't for my open house? No. But, and this is where I do things different. Some team leaders do it the totally opposite, which I can't disagree with. But my goal is, I don't want to say that client's mine forever, because I don't want to put them on a drip campaign. I don't want to follow up with them for the next 6 months. I want that client to become Brittany's. So on the first transaction, 50-50. But then in 6 months, after Brittany does such a great job, if that client refers her to her friend, that next transaction and any transaction moving forward goes back on Brittany's team member split of either that 10 or 15%, depending on where she's at. Then it's her client. You know, I didn't build that relationship, you know. And again, it's pushing my team members to go build your own database, you know. Now, on top of that, yeah, you're paying in, but you're getting a great culture, you're getting branding, you're getting marketing, all of that. That's a whole other session. This other stuff is kind of miscellaneous. And again, this is market area specific. Here, I know on personal residence or investments, I don't take anything from them. If you want to go sell your house, you're not going to pay me anything. I'm not providing everything. Now, if they have 7 investment properties, we might look at that different, but I'm talking about one. Compass charges a flat fee of $500 to do that. Again, that doesn't come to me, that goes straight to Compass. Here, whose market allows intermediary where you can represent both sides? Yes or no? Let me see in the chat. Oh man, we're running out of time. Yes. Okay. So intermediary, this happens a lot with me because we list a lot around here. So I'll have an open house or I'll have a listing and I'll get a call from someone that goes, hey, I want this home. I'm a buyer. I don't have an agent. So what that looks like is what I will do is assign that, because I'm not going to work both sides. I've been down that road, almost been sued. No fun. It's not worth the extra money. But I will assign that buyer to someone on my team. My team member agrees to a 1% commission, because basically what I'm doing is handing them a buyer to go write a contract and they're going to make 1% off of it. What it does is give the seller who I'm representing a little bit of a deal, a better deal on that side. So, and this is a case-by-case basis, which you can read at the bottom. It says at my discretion. So, I know I rapid fired through that because we only have 30 minutes, but yeah, dual agency. Perfect. Lee, jump on here. What do you got for me?
So we just had, so we've used your contract with a brand new agent. Her first deal was this past week. And I was trying to be good with the math to let them know they're getting a 70-30 split, taking the 10% split from Compass that we have. And that math doesn't work. You've got to say it's 80-20 because the 10%'s already gone. Compass can't do that. Yeah. So we had to do some Chinese math work to get the transaction fee and everything worked out. So I've got to go back to her and say, it's a 70-30 split after the 10%. You've got to take that 10% out of the equation. Which I was trying to let them know, we're kind of trying to stay at a 70-30 split, but you just got to take the 10% off the top.
Okay.
And then I did, instead of the $5,000, I said, if you get to 5 million, that's when it becomes an 80-20 or a 90-10, whatever that level is, rather than trying to figure out how much they have paid us. What have they produced?
My only concern, and I used to do that. I did a sales.
I got it from you.
Yeah. I used to do it that way. But then my only factor, well, that actually works then if you do the sales number, but then it's okay, where did that business come from? Was it generated from me? Was it generated from you? Does that affect that number? Should it not? I
was not going to let it affect that number.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, if they generate 5 million, they go up to the next level.
And I used to do like X amount of transactions or 5 million, whatever that number was. But the transaction thing doesn't work, because what if it's 3 leases for $1,200 a month? Well, no one's making money on that, right? But she hit her goal. So yeah, there's all different types of ways to do it. Oh yeah, he said, please be sure to let Lee says net. Yeah, got it. Tyler, you got anything to add?
Well, just with Lee and whoever on our contracts, we actually say net. So you can drop the 70-30. So we just sit there and say, hey, it's an 80-20 split or a 90-10 or whatever the split may be based on our net. So then you've already factored in the 10% or we go all the way up to 92 in Kansas City. So whatever that is, as soon as I say it's based on our net, then you can give the split you want, and you just explain that calculation. It's very well understood in the Kansas City area. So that's how we get around the net. And then you can kind of demonstrate it as an 80-20 based on net. And then they can ask you, well, what is your split? And you're like, hey, we're 92, we're 91, we're 90, whatever the case may be. And then it easily resolves that.
Perfect.
With respects to our contracts, I have flirted, like Tommy said, many times back and forth, but on how to do our splits, I just reintroduced a level just because I'm now kind of golden handshaking retiree agents and taking on their team members. So I have to flirt with that and bring them in. But what I've done then is, instead of by transaction or certain numbers, I've gone on their net pay scale. So it's a little more effort on my part, but once they achieve 35,000 net, then there's a bump. Once they personally achieve 85,000 net, then there's a bump. So then it doesn't matter if it's a lease, a purchase, a referral, and you can track that and easily move it up as well. That's how we've gone around that with our contracts.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you said that, because Tyler is one that does have different tiers, which that works for him, right? But I think this can be a basis of kind of how you can set things up, and then you can plug and play, right? So for me, the additional cost, that's what I said in the beginning. So on a buy side deal, each agent pays a flat $275. On a list side deal that they do, it's $475. That's the shocking thing. I could lower their split and pay for it all, but in my experience, they barked about that. When you mess with the split, that's when they get all out of whack. But they realize the value in the transaction side, and they don't have a problem with it. So, all right. Well, I know that went quick. We ran over a few minutes. So again, this will all be in the CSC platform. If you guys have any other questions outside of this, you can always shoot me a message. I'm happy to talk with you offline. I know this is a super important session, and in the end, like I said in the very beginning, there's so many ways you can do this. There's not a right way, there's not a wrong way. But this has kind of been what's successful for me because of what I want to achieve down the road. If my goal was to be out there grinding every single day and myself knocking on doors and getting as much personal business I can, this would change a little bit because it would be more leaning on a rainmaker role. So yeah, again, I appreciate you guys for being on it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay. Take care, guys.